James Relly is a case in point. Refused to call himself a Universalist, hated the word. He's an 18th century preacher in London, the guy who was the George Whitefield guy. And so did John Murray, the founder, not really the founder, but the pastor of the very first American Universalist church. He was a follower of Relly. They hated the word universalism because it's not in the Bible. So they wouldn't. So Relly would always say, "I'm not a Universalist." He thought everyone would be saved, but he wouldn't be call himself a Universalist because it's not a biblical word. I don't have that kind of aversion. I'm quite happy to use words that aren't biblical words if it's explaining a biblical concept, like Trinity, for example. It's not a biblical word, but I think it is a way of, conceptualizing a biblical idea. However, there are issues here, and some of the debate. So, for example, Thomas Talbot, Thomas Torrance, T.F. Torrance, who is a very well-known 20th century Scottish Presbyterian Reformed theologian, and a really, really fabulous theologian, was really opposed to universalism. He hated the term, but it was the ism thing that really he didn't like. He didn't like the idea, and he's not alone in this. He didn't like the idea that God, it felt, I'm putting words in his mouth here, but I think it felt to him like you're trying to squeeze God into some preordained system that God has to fit. There's sort of connotations of isms that he didn't like. And he thought, I think he didn't think that you could know or say whether God would save everyone or not. So that's the other thing. Maybe everyone will be saved, but maybe they won't. And it's not, as we can't say, so, he's not a universalist as such, but I think his theology would be very sympathetic to universalism, properly construed, and definitely if you drop the term universalism. So some 18th century universalists didn't talk about it like that. Some of them would talk about universal restoration. And they'd use sort of other phrases, we believe in the restoration. We believe in the restoration of all things. I quite like that. In fact, the very first edition of this slide thing, and the one that I printed out before I changed it, didn't have it. I had to write it. It just takes more space. So you say, oh, are you a universal restorationist or something? It just takes longer to say. So I just think, oh, stuff it. I'll call myself a universalist and just explain what I mean by that. If you have a problem with the word, I'm very happy to drop it and just say, I believe that God will save all people through Christ. I believe in the restoration of all things through Christ. It just takes longer to say. It's just clumsy. So my thought is, if you want to drop it, drop it. There are reasons it might disturb some people. It also has the problem of connotations, because people think they know what it means. But on the other hand, that might be a helpful provocation to make them pay attention. I'm going to tell you something that's going to freak you out. Here's something you think scary. Now let me tell you that it doesn't necessarily mean what you think it means. It might, in some cases, get people's attention and so to focus thought.